Hello there! I threw it out to you guys a few weeks ago that I was thinking of watching and reviewing some Japanese Godzilla kaiju movies. You seem to like the idea, so we're going ahead with it. And of course, we're going to start at the very beginning. But first, I want to give a quick explanation of some terms. These were not incredibly familiar to me, so defining them was helpful, and maybe it'll be helpful to you. These movies are known as tokusatsu films, which basically means they have a lot of special effects and deal mainly in the sci-fi, horror, or fantasy genres. One of the most popular subgenres of tokusatsu is the kaiju movie. The word kaiju means strange beast. And usually these strange beasts are also gigantic. Within the kaiju subgenre, there are some standalone movies, but more famously there are two major long-running series. The Gamera series, created by Kadokawa Pictures, and the Godzilla series, created by the Toho Company. The Godzilla movies will be my main focus in these reviews, but I will include a few non-Godzilla movies, and if there are any outliers that you really want me to see and review, go ahead and mention them in the comments, and I might be able to do a review of them. I say might because I am restricted by what titles I'm able to rent from the library. But don't worry, that's still at least 30 different movies. Oh, and by the way, as you've probably figured out by now, I'm going to be saying a lot of Japanese words and names. I'm going to do the best I can to get them right, but we all know by now that I'm bound to trip over a name sooner or later, so I ask you to please forgive my mispronunciation. Let's talk now about the movie that gave birth to Japan's greatest pop culture icon, 1954's Gojira. This film, directed by Yoshiro Honda, the mastermind behind many of the most beloved kaiju movies, introduced Godzilla, an ocean-dwelling, dinosaur-like monster who is awakened by the testing of nuclear weapons. Instead of being killed by the radiation, he absorbs it. He rises from the ocean's depths and starts attacking, first ships, then a small island, and then the entire city of Tokyo. With his height of about 50 meters, his tough skin, and his atomic breath, he throws all of Japan into panic and terror. The name Gojira comes from a combination of the word gorilla, or gorilla, and Kujira, or whale. The gorilla part is probably inspired by King Kong, which was a huge influence on Honda in making this movie. The native residents of Odo Island, where we catch our first glimpse of the monster, are the first to call him Gojira, using the name of a beast from their ancient folklore. This name is adopted by Japanese officials and the press, and then transliterated in the English subtitles as Godzilla. Over the decades, Godzilla's design has fluctuated some, for better or for worse. Though this was his first, and probably his least expensive incarnation, I find this original design quite intimidating. Sure, he's a little slow and clunky, but there's something freaky about his eyes, which appear, at least to me, to have a disturbing glow about them. These movies all employed the suitmation technique, in which the monsters are played by an actor wearing a suit. The man who played the original Godzilla, Haruo Nakajima, passed away earlier this month. He played Godzilla in no less than 12 films. One thing I love about this movie right from the beginning is its opening credits, which start off with Godzilla's signature roar, a startling sound that makes your hair stand on end. This roar was created by rubbing a special leather glove covered in resin down the strings of a contrabass and then playing back the sound at a slower speed. I don't know how you get the idea to try that in the first place, but it was brilliant. And then the music comes in. Of composer Akira Ifukube's entire score, I like this main theme the best, and I was thrilled to discover while doing research for this review that this piece, known as Godzilla's theme, was used in many sequels and is greatly revered by the fans. It's got a rousing build-up, majestic and awesome as befits the king of the monsters, but also intense and a little desperate. It's a great way to set the mood for the entire film, and the way the roar is incorporated in there, really, all of Ifukube's music is haunting in its own way, from the heroic, slightly jaunty military march with its unnerving twist, to the children's prayer for light and deliverance. The scene in which the children perform this song for a radio broadcast is quite moving. It conveys the sadness of a nation in mourning, but also affects the plot by influencing a character's decision. Which brings me to another observation. Gojira has such a strong personal element, which is not something you get with your average giant monster flick. The bulk of the story focuses on just 4 principal characters. Emiko, played by Momoko Kochi, her boyfriend in the Navy, played by Akira Takarada, her father, played by Takashi Shimura. He is a zoologist, paleontologist who unveils Godzilla's probable origins and struggles with the reality that this newly discovered monster and last surviving member of its species must be destroyed. And the 4th, and probably most memorable character, is Dr. Serizawa, played by Akihiko Hirata. He's a childhood friend of Emiko's who seems to have feelings for her but doesn't express them, so there's a hint of a love triangle there, but more importantly, he's the inventor of a terribly powerful secret weapon, and he's tormented by the fear of what would happen if word of this weapon got out. Dr. Serizawa comes off as a mysterious man, with even a touch of the mad scientist about him, but he's ultimately a compelling, noble figure. You can see Gojira simply as a monster movie, and as such, it's very good. But you can also see it as something darker and more serious, a theoretical answer to the question of what unknown terrors can be unleashed by nuclear detonations. The film submits some subtle reminders that the Japanese had already experienced the devastation of atomic bombs and radiation firsthand. Take the terror and suffering in the wake of Godzilla's rampage at face value as just part of the movie, and it's understandable. Think of it from 1954 Japan's point of view, and you can see Godzilla's attack as a nightmarish repetition of events that had happened not even 10 years before. Its historical significance and emphasis on a sober, emotional tone make 1954's Gojira stand apart. It's never goofy, it doesn't have any out-of-place comic relief, its effects are not distractingly cheesy, though yes, occasionally the model effects are very obvious. It's not packed with disposable characters or caricatures, and it's not just about action and fighting and explosions. So Gojira is different, not only from its own sequels, but from many of its Western counterparts in the giant monster genre, which came before, and which would come after. I'm not sure if I'd say quite the same of the famous or infamous, depending on how you feel about it, 1956 American version, Godzilla King of the Monsters. This version entirely rescripted the original to incorporate an American main character played by Raymond Burr. It's been a few years since I've seen this one, but I seem to remember that the changes made the movie less intense, perhaps because Burr spent so much time narrating events from the sidelines instead of actually participating in them. The American version is also lighter, shorter, and less consistent in its tone. The American version was my first introduction to Godzilla as a young teen, and honestly, I didn't mind it. But having seen both films a couple of times each, I agree with the widespread consensus that the Japanese version is superior. So if you're going to watch one of them, go for the original. And if you're only going to see one Godzilla movie in your entire life, you should probably make it the first one. Although maybe I should wait until I see 25 more before I say that. I hope you enjoyed this review and that you'll stick around for the next ones. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.